Hey y'all, welcome to Soccer for Us. I am Bart, and on this episode we are talking about the greatest soccer team in the universe on a mission to reclaim dominance over its region in the coming weeks. That's right, we're talking about the U.S. women's national team as they just completed a pair of friendlies against Colombia and now turning their attention to the Concacaf Women's Championship, which also serves as 2023 World Cup and 2024 Olympics qualifying. It's a tournament with a lot of important things. And to share his thoughts on the roster, the friendlies, and most importantly, this team's prospects in this tournament, it's the purveyor of U.S. Soccer Corner, Caleb Cook. Caleb, thanks for coming on and talking some women's soccer with me.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to talk about a team that is just, like you said, the best soccer team in the universe. I mean, when you're looking at this team and they repeated, World Cup champs and looking like they could do it again. I mean, they're just such a good team, such a deep squad. It's fun to talk about. So let's get into it.
Well, definitely a deep squad. 23 players were called up. And before we really get into that, I do need to update everyone. We're not going to talk about this in its entirely, but the U.S. men's U20 national team are currently, as we're recording on a Friday, they'll be playing tonight to hopefully secure qualification to the Olympics. Their tournament, also very much like this Concacaf W Championship, is like an amalgamation of several things. So they advanced the top of the group with 7 points. They tied Canada 2-2. Canada scored two of the luckiest goals in all of soccer, and then proved that they're really not a great soccer nation. They're just a bunch of guys who can run and play defense. But the U.S. did beat St. Kitts and Nevis and Cuba by a combined score of 13-0. So the group stage really wasn't that challenging. Went on to beat Nicaragua in the round of 16, then beat Costa Rica in the quarterfinals to qualify for the 2023 U20 World Cup. That match against Honduras is tonight, Friday, for a chance to go to the Olympics. It's another meeting against Honduras with an Olympic spot on the line. That said, the U.S. men at the U20 level, at least, have made the finals like 4 times in a row. They won it last time. I think I'd say I'm pretty confident, but I think my question is, how important do you think making the Olympics for the men is when we're talking about the program as a whole?
As far as soccer goes and development and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't matter, whatever. The way I look at it is more about just the continued growth of the game in the United States, right? The more soccer that we have that is on a national stage, right? Because as soccer fans, we might not care about the Olympics as much, but the casual fan or the person who isn't really a fan quite yet, they are turned on when the Olympics happen and they're paying attention because it's the country. And so it's just an opportunity to be on a stage in front of a national audience to grow the sport. So to me, any opportunity to do that is important. So that's why I kind of put a little more stock into it than a lot of people, because I think they're looking at it just on a soccer stage. And I'm looking at it on a consumership growth of the sport that's already, I mean, we're already seeing incremental growth of soccer in America, soccer fandom, viewership, all that kind of stuff. This is just another way, another opportunity to push that further. And the bigger it gets, the more money that's put into it, the bigger it grows, the bigger the domestic league. I mean, just nothing but good can come from it, I guess is my point, right? Nothing but good can come from it. So why wouldn't we want that?
Well, and we haven't made an Olympic tournament in quite a long time. So I think when you want to be a good program, you need to be making the Olympics pretty frequently. That's my take on it.
100%.
100%. I don't think anyone watching next summer, or 2 summers from now, I should say, will care how we qualified. They don't care that, we beat a couple crappy teams, whatever. But I think the question would be more than likely, why aren't we there? Mexico and Canada won't be there because they lost their quarterfinal match. Actually, Canada lost before that. Best team in CONCACAF, though, right? But that's kind of the thing, right? Like, if you want to be the best, you got to be there. And that kind of does tie in also with the U.S. women's national team of, like, if you want to be the best in the world, you got to be the best in your region. And if you're the U.S. men's program, you need to start dominating these youth tournaments, because it's just a mentality thing. Also, from a pure soccer development standpoint, it's good for these guys to get
Oh my
playing time in
gosh.
tournaments like these, because they're not going to be overshadowed by, I mean, freaking Gio Reyna and Ricardo Pepi could have been on this roster, right? Like, obviously they're not, because they're full-time professionals playing for big European clubs. But, you know, it gives a guy like Quinn Sullivan, a guy like Paxton Aronson, and guys like that a chance to shine. And that's a positive.
Yeah, I mean, beyond like what I was talking about, the consumership, all that kind of stuff, I think what you just said is extremely important. The development that these kids are going to have going into a tournament style, or just an actual tournament on a world stage, that's an incredible experience. Think about all these players that we've had for the last 14 years that have not had that. And then they're getting into the World Cup qualifying process and they've never even done that. I mean, it's extremely important. So, you know, and going back to touch a little bit on the casuals that I mentioned, the casual soccer fan or whatever, you know, you're talking about they don't care how we qualify, whatever. Let's just be honest. They don't even realize how you qualify or
They
that
have
you
no
do
idea.
have to
They're not
qualify.
watching this
All
tournament.
all they see is the fact that we're not there,
Right.
which in turn gives them the idea that, oh, we suck. So why would they tune in to watch U.S. men's national team soccer? Or, oh, the women are the only ones that's good. Because that's all they see. They see them doing well. They see them in tournaments. They don't see the men because we're not in it. So being in the Olympics it's just a way to turn that dial a little bit to engage more fans. And there's nothing negative that can come from that.
Speaking of tournaments that need to win, let's shift our focus now to the U.S. women's national team. Like I said, 23 players called in by Vlatko Andonovski. And, you know, there's been a lot of critique of Vlatko, not just about this roster, which there's plenty to critique, but the team's performance has been a little lackluster is maybe the best way to put it. I think I have differences of opinions on what lackluster means. But, you know, this is a 23-player squad that, you know, has to perform in the tournament coming up this summer. Goalkeepers are Aubrey Kingsbury from Washington Spirit, Casey Murphy from North Carolina Courage, and Alyssa Nair from Chicago Red Stars. We've seen these girls play a lot. Nair comes back. I think she's like your number one, but Casey Murphy's been making a quiet case for herself, both in NWSL and on the U.S. women's national team. I don't know if you could count any snubs. I mean, there's a Jane Campbell shout. There's maybe a 80 France shout, but I think these are the three strongest we have right now.
I mean, I'm a Jane Campbell fan, you know,
Same.
home state, you know what I mean? I think she should get more opportunities, but I think you're kind of seeing a Stephen Turner type situation here with Nair and Murphy, just because Nair is that kind of established number one. She's been there, got the experience, right? With Stefan, you've got Berhalter. It's his boy. He was the established guy. So there's some similarities. There's some parallels right there. But I've never been a huge Nair fan just because she doesn't give me that cockiness that I want from a keeper. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
with
it
a
does.
keeper, you just want you want them to be like, I'm saving everything. Like it doesn't. And she sometimes gives me like a feel of like timidity almost. And I don't know. I would prefer to see Murphy kind of step in and take that. But again, it's, you know, like I said, it's one of those Stephen Turner things.
Yeah.
Both are really good, but the coach has their kind of preferred person.
Yeah.
You know, what is it going to take to dethrone the default number one, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, though. Alyssa Nair has a World Cup championship under her belt.
She does.
Played pretty
100%.
phenomenally during that tournament. So, you know, it is.
She did.
But to your point, I think that's actually a good thing because Casey Murphy is pushing her. Like, her performances are noteworthy, and they're pushing her. Let's move on to defenders. We have 7, Alana Cook from LL Reign, Emily Fox from Racing Louisville, Naomi Girma from San Diego Wave. She's the youngest, I think, on this roster. Sofia Huerta from LL Reign, Kelly O'Hara from Washington Spirit, Becky Sauerbrunn from Portland, and Emily Sonnet also from Washington. A good mix of like really established players and some exciting new ones. Who from this defending group kind of sticks out to you?
I mean, I'm a big fan of Alana Cook. Number one, just sharing the
Yeah.
last name,
Yeah.
right? Uh, this family, right? Uh, but I like the way she plays. I like her confidence. Um, just really strong. So I've really I've liked watching her. And then I'm a O'Hara fan, right? Again, hometown, right? And then I like her swag. I like her ability to get forward, but also the fact
Yeah.
that she is a really good defensive right back. Um, so it's not like with Midge Purse when she was playing a little bit of that right back, it was more like, well, she can get forward.
Hmm.
With Kelly, you're not losing that much going forward. We saw the goal, in
Hmm.
the second game. So I like the defensive group. I think, um, Vlatko calling in this specific roster to see some of the younger players. Um, Fox has been playing pretty well at left back, um, but when it comes time to call the real roster,
Yeah.
you know, is he going to call in the Dahlkemper and give her spot back? I mean,
Yeah.
my thing is the choices that he's making with these roster decisions. Is it just this person's out of favor, so I left him out, or I know what they give me, I'm leaving him out. Let me see someone
Hmm.
new. So
Yeah. Dahlkemper
it's
is an
kind of where,
interesting one because she's been kind of
yeah,
hurt, but it's like, could she have gone? I don't think she could have gone for this tournament, but yeah, I'm with you. It's interesting where he has made
she
some
should be ready
decisions.
for the she should be ready for the next one. So that's where it's
Right.
like, is he
Right.
going to give her spot? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I think he's done a great job of calling in some of these younger players, getting some
Yeah.
looks at some players that needed to be looked at. I know we talked about in the past with Julie Ertz being the number 6, and then the program just went so long
Yeah.
without trying to find a solidified backup to her. So it's like when she got hurt, it was like, what the crap are we going to
Yeah.
do? So I think maybe he learned from that specific situation to
Hmm.
where, hey, when we do have these opportunities, if we know what this person gives, we know what that person gives, let's take a look at someone else
Yeah.
just in case we need them.
Well, and obviously Crystal Dunn isn't here because she gave birth to a beautiful child, and that's a kind of a
Mhm.
great example of that. Of she was the left back for the U.S. national team for a decade, and really wasn't a left back, even though she's a phenomenal
Right.
player and somehow
Phenomenal,
managed to.
right.
You're right, but now we have an Emily Fox who is a left back, and I think
Mhm.
that's like honestly a great thing to see, that we have someone who's can actually play that position. Midfielders, we have Lindsay Horan from Olympique Lyon, Taylor Korniak from San Diego Wave, Rose Lavelle from OL Reign, Christy Mewis from Gotham FC, Ashley Sanchez from Washington Spirit, and Andy Sullivan from Washington Spirit. Now, again, Vlatko only calling up really one defensive midfielder. It's weird because he called up Jalen Howell for like the training squad, but didn't bring her to the actual full
Mhm.
tournament. I think that the answer would be, well, Haran can kind of play the 6. We saw Mewis play the
Right.
6 a couple times. Do you
Mhm.
think that's enough?
I mean, I I if Ertz is going to be the default one, right? And Sullivan, I think we all kind of assume is the number 2. Um, I I don't see why he wouldn't have brought Jalen Howell in to continue to kind of give
Yeah,
her those. It's almost like a tryout, like an audition, right?
yeah.
Just to continue because she's still somewhat young, but giving her that opportunity to step in and say, hey, maybe you can consider me a little bit more. Um, I, but I do think it's kind of one of those situations where he's saying, if I need to make something happen, I can put her in there. He's done Sonnet
Mhm.
before. Don't love that. But I
I
think
think,
that's his
yeah,
mindset.
I think the Haran and Mewis is fine for a tournament like this, where I'll be
If you
honest,
need it.
yeah, like I think that, and we saw this during the friendlies. The problem we had wasn't really defensive midfielder. I think that there were issues for Colombia attacking against Haran and Mewis, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And most of the teams we're going to be playing in this tournament are ranked lower than um, well, I shouldn't say most. The two teams in our group that we're going to be playing of the three are ranked lower than Colombia, and then Colombia and Mexico are separated by like 2 spots in the FICA ranking. So I think he can get away with it in this instance. But to your point about Lindsay Ertz, about Julie Ertz, is Julie is obviously also on maternity leave at this point, right? She's
Hmm.
expecting a
Hmm.
child.
Hmm.
We're not sure where she'll be come summer of 2023. So I
Right.
feel like this is a good time to test out what that succession plan looks like. I mean, obviously Andy Sullivan is the next in line, but she's
Right.
not even like a true kind of defensive midfielder the way Ertz is. Jalen Howell is. I'm a little shocked
Yeah.
that Howell is not on the full roster. But here's the flip side of that. Which midfielder do you leave off?
See, that's the hard part. That's why, I'm glad I'm not Vlatko because he's got all these decisions to make.
Right.
Because the midfield is so strong and you have so many just strong players, important players. Um, but that's one of those things where you like you said, like, when you have these opportunities, why not bring some of these in, give them the
Yeah.
opportunities? Because we don't live in a perfect universe, a perfect world. Uh, there's always going to be, you know, she had a baby, or she's hurt,
Mm-hmm.
she's injured, she's like, or just maybe someone falls out of form. Probably not, but there's so many things that could
Yep.
happen. Let's test these players out. Let's give them the opportunities to see what they can do in the event that I need to count on them, because you don't want to get to that spot and then say, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, you had opportunities. Why didn't you do it?
Yep.
So yeah, I was surprised with the Howell
Yeah. I
omission
mean,
there,
she's
but
22 years old, so there's still plenty of time. But I think again, it's just one of those. Why not? Why not? I do think that if I remember correctly, she can still train and travel with the team during the tournament. She's obviously just not on the actual squad, so she'll probably be there, which is fine. Um, I am. I will say that even after watching these two friendlies, the idea of Lavelle and Sanchez playing together on the field is just really fun because that
I
is
mean,
unfair.
they're both so technical. Uh, I mean, and Sanchez, I love, like, they close her. She get double teamed and she splits the defenders like all the time. She's so much
Yeah.
fun to watch. Um, and then that's the thing. Just her kind of introduction into the national team in the last year or so. It's just like what you talked about with midfielders. You know, it's just another depth
Yeah.
piece. Like, you start listing U.S. women's national team midfielders, and it's just like strength, strength, strength,
A
strength,
couple of them are
strength.
not
Like,
here for injury. Like that's the thing is like
right.
they like
Yeah,
yeah, we're missing like two of the
that's
best,
what I'm
but yeah,
saying.
it's
I know.
it's
I mean,
definitely an embarrassment of riches and a
it's a
plethora of
good problem to
talent.
have.
Yeah.
But
um,
like I said a second ago, I'm glad I'm not Vlatko, because there's gonna be some really tough decisions.
talk about some more great talent. You look at the forward line. Ashley Hatch, the
Hmm.
last year's Golden Boot winner from
Hmm.
Washington. Alex Morgan, the current leader for the Golden Boot in NWSL from San Diego Wave. Mal Pugh from Chicago. Mid Purse from Gotham. Megan Rapinoe making a return. We'll talk about that in a little bit. OL Reign. Trinity Rodman from Washington, the spark plug that she is, and Sophia Smith from
Hmm.
Portland. Now, this is some great attacking talent. And again, not even the best of the best because we do have a couple of injuries at this position. But
Hmm.
I think that the question comes down to Hatch and Morgan. How do they perform? And how can Hatch do similar things that Morgan does? Because Morgan has done a good job of kind of reinventing herself to be a hold up player. She's also become a
Hmm.
little bit more technical in the way that she tries to combine with players who are passing to her. Obviously, both of these ladies both of these ladies are competing with Katarina Macario, who unfortunately tore her ACL weeks before the tournament. Um,
Yeah.
this is an interesting time, and I know Morgan is a beloved stalwart, but she's got to kind of show out this tournament to prove that she still belongs. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think she's got to stay hot, and I think it's going to be one of those. You combine what's happening with the national team and what's happening in the club seasons. If she stays hot, I
Yeah.
mean, you've kind of got to ride that wave, and the fact that she's been that person, right? She's been
Right.
the number 9, right? So as long as she's still playing at high level, that kind of has to be taken into account. Um, and I mean, let's say you give her the start and it's just not happening, and you sub Hatch in for the last 30 minutes or something. I mean, that's incredible to be able to bring Hatch off the bench, because she does do a lot of similar things, but she's a different type of player. Um, it's we keep talking about it, an embarrassment of riches, good problem to have. I mean, all this, you look at almost every position on the field, you kind of have something like this, right? Where it's like the number 1, quote unquote, is being pushed by the number 2. I mean, that is it's a fantastic issue to
Yeah.
have. Um, but it is hard, and if I'm Vlatko, again, can't say this enough, glad I'm not. But if I'm Vlatko, I'm probably going to continue to give the nod to Alex Morgan just because of what she is doing
Yeah.
on the club level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think last year there was a valid reason to explore other options beyond Alex Morgan.
Sure.
Ashley Hatch had a great second half of 2022 where she really came onto the scene, both obviously in NWSL and winning a championship with Washington, but also getting a lot of goals for the U.S. Women's National Team in friendlies that weren't necessarily throwaways. But now it does look like Alex Morgan is back to that Alex Morgan we know and love, and that is a positive for the U.S. Women's National Team because we know she loves to win her some trophies.
Never a bad thing.
And then when we look at the wingers, like I said, we'll talk about Megan Rapinoe a little bit, but these wingers are really lethal. I mean, you look at
Mhm,
Mal Pugh and Sophia Smith are both fast, but also incredibly gifted at beating defenders 1v1,
mhm,
both
mhm.
great at hitting shots from distance or crosses from distance. And then
Right,
behind them, you have Midge Purse and Trinity Rodman, who might be carbon cop. I mean, the overall abilities of these wingers is insane that all four have
right,
just about every skill that you would want on a checklist.
right. Yeah, I mean, speed is one thing that's always been something that the wingers for the women's national team, it's been an important type of thing. Um, but you look at specifically with Pugh and Sophia Smith right now, their technical ability um, is fantastic. 1v1s, and then their ability to create their own shot. So not
Yeah.
only getting in behind
Yeah.
with through balls, which are we saw one from Lavelle splits the defenders. Sophia
Yeah.
Smith runs on it. I mean, that right there is like textbook U.S. Women's National Team. Um, but when we do face teams that are sitting in a lower block, they do have a really good ability to beat their
Yeah.
defenders 1v1, get crosses to the box, or hit those longer shots. But I mean, and we're talking about uh, Pugh, Smith, Rodman, Purse. Not even talking about Chris and Press, which I know we'll probably talk about her in a second. Um,
Lynn
you know,
Williams isn't here.
is Lynn, I was going to say Lynn Williams, is Tobin Heath done with the program? Like, I mean, there's still so much talent
Yeah.
that we're not even talking about right now.
Yeah.
Um, and and with Mal Pugh and Sophia Smith, Pugh's what, 25,
I think,
24?
yeah, Mal's a little bit older, but they're both like
She's
in
a
their,
little bit older,
yeah,
but the Sophia Smith's what, 22? Like, we're
yeah,
talking really young players. Um, and they're just so exciting to watch because I do love me some fast
yeah,
wingers. And watching those through balls and them just running past the defenders like it's nothing it's incredibly exciting, especially for a casual fan, because
yeah,
they're not understanding what's built up and how you're moving a player. They see all these passes, like whatever, but that's just exciting. Whether you're a seasoned soccer fan or a casual watching, it's exciting to see that speed. And I mean, there's speed for days on this team. So
yeah. It's exciting, especially when you consider looking at the Concacaf Women's Championship that you have two teams in Jamaica and Cuba who may try to bunker, right? So speed may not
Hmm.
be something that we can really utilize
Right.
against them. But as you said,
Right.
all four of these
Hmm.
women have that ability to
Yeah.
beat someone 1v1, create their own shot. And more importantly, they've shown, at least under Vlatko's system, that they have picked up the positional style of play where you're trying to create chaos for the defense while moving on and off the ball. And
Exactly.
that was, I think, pretty evident. We'll talk about it with these games, but I know the scoreline may not have indicated dominance as we think dominance is for this women's national team, but they created a lot of chances. Um,
Right.
and it was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, and then, like you said, when a team does sit in a lower block, right, you're not going to rely on that speed. You look at, I was just talking about Pugh and Smith, but then you look at like a Midge Purse with a little nutmeg the other day on the right
Yeah,
side. Well, I mean,
yeah,
it's fun to watch,
yeah,
but the ability to do those things, to make that first defender miss, which makes the next defender have to step, which
yeah.
creates more space. I mean, all of that is vital to the attack, um, and the strategy of the women's national team. And the fact that we're talking about the third, fourth, fifth string winger with the ability to do that is it's stupid. So, you look at the men's national team and you've got four, that you feel really, really, really confident
Right.
in. You start getting into 5, 6, and you're like, well, they work hard. With the women's national team, you get
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, and they still have that ability,
Yep.
right? You're still
Yeah.
not losing that much. So, I mean, it's just incredible. That right there, I think, is why we brought in the show talking about the best soccer team on the planet, in the universe, because that's what it's like. The second string women's national team is probably the second best team in the world.
Yeah, we've battered around the idea that our friendlies against a team like Uzbekistan even that worthwhile? Like, why can't you just put out your second team squad?
Just yeah,
Because
it is.
it's just more
Yeah.
likely that they're actually going to be competitive games. And you're right. I mean, that's why I'm very confident heading into this tournament, because I know that all 23 players on this roster can go out there and win us a trophy. Like, I'm not concerned about
Mhm.
any of them being
Yeah.
able to perform at the level of winning a trophy, except for, and now we'll talk about her, maybe possibly one. So Megan Rapinoe is on this roster. Now, I'm going to give the case for why Megan
Is
Rapinoe is
she?
on the roster. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, she's getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and she'll actually be missing a
I saw that.
game. So congrats to her. But like, it kind of is just an example of where I think the frustration of why she's included on this roster comes from. Um,
Mhm.
yes, she is still performing when she plays at a very high clip for OL Reign. She hasn't been playing a whole lot, mainly because she's
Right.
35 years old, and injuries take
Mhm.
long to recover from, and all these things.
Mhm.
Vlatko Andonovski basically said that this roster spot was guaranteed to her last summer because he wanted someone to be a good leader in the locker room and on the field, be the overall team captain, if you will, like
Mhm.
all these things that aren't about her and what she can bring to the performance of the team on the field. And this has brought Vlatko a lot of criticism. And I think it's very
Right.
just, because we talked about Jalen Howell, and you could have brought Jalen Howell instead of Megan Rapinoe. And nothing against Megan Rapinoe, but I don't think she's, in my opinion, she's not breaking the top two. Like, I'm not bringing Megan
Yeah.
Rapinoe in off the bench. Now, granted, she's still very good at delivering set pieces. A little shaky at times in the second friendly against Colombia, but she got an assist off in a set piece in the first game. She's still, uh, when she gets the ball at her feet, she's still very effective at delivering passes and finding open runners. But it just, I don't think she deserved a spot on this roster. And the fact that it was just kind of given to her over
Mhm.
girls who probably are either in positions that are more needed, like I said, at Jalen Howell, or people who maybe deserve it more. I mean, the depth in NWSL right now is insane. So there's a lot of players you could have called up. It just feels a little. I think Vlatko deserves all of the criticism he's getting about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, for this latest camp, I'm with you. There were a few other players that maybe you could have had to give them that tryout, that audition, the opportunity, um, because the whole, you know, uh, experience, leadership, like all that kind of stuff, that's really important. And if this was like a World Cup roster, I would be a little bit more okay with it, right? Because I feel like you do kind of need that. She'd be really good on set pieces, all that kind of stuff. She has value there,
Yeah,
but in this situation, you didn't need that. Why? I mean, why do you need leadership and
yeah.
experience for two friendlies against Colombia?
Well, and
You don't.
here's the thing too. I mean, look, we tried the whole experience argument last summer in the Olympics, and we saw that it didn't really work because the players who have that quote experience didn't perform up to that level. And I'm
Yeah.
not blaming Rapinoe. I'm not saying she's not a good player, and I'm not thankful for all she's done for the U.S. Women's National Team program. But when you talk about experience, you still have Alex Morgan, who has 2 World Cups and a silver. You still have Alyssa Nair. You still have Becky Sauerbrunn. And then,
Yeah.
those are the older ones. You still, but then you still have Lindsey Horan and Rose Lavelle who
Lindsey
have,
Horan,
you
Sam
know,
Hughes, yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
Mal Pugh has, been a part
Yeah,
of international
exactly.
squad. So it's not like
Right.
there's no experience here. And that's
Right.
kind of the other thing where it's like, why?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and then you pair that with, there's several players who are injured. That it sucks. We talked about them already, but like Lynn Williams, Abby Dahlkemper, Sam Lewis is injured.
Yep. Yep.
Katarina Macario tore her ACL. Obviously, we have Ertz and Dunn out with children. Kristen Press was injured right before this roster drop, but we found out that Kristen Press wouldn't have even been considered. Well, not I shouldn't say
Mhm.
considered. Would not have been on this roster. Now, there's a player who has that experience, who has
Experience, yeah.
performed very well at the top level and has won multiple World Cups and has been a part of Olympic tournaments and been a part of tournaments like these, who, when you look at how she's played for Angel City, is absolutely more effective than how she's played for Angel City than Pino has been for Reign. And to say that Megan Rapinoe gets an automatic spot, but Kristen Press
Because of
wasn't
that.
deserving,
Right.
how does
Right.
that doesn't no, that doesn't work.
Do you think it's almost like he feels pressure to call her in because of who she is and what she's meant to the program, all that kind of stuff,
So
and he just doesn't want to say that?
look, I don't love to parrot this particular narrative because I don't necessarily have anything that can substantiate it. But to your point, yes, about Rapinoe. But then we know that Kristen Press has been very vocal about her criticism of the way that U.S. soccer has handled player support structures, how they have handled sexual assault and
Mm,
harassment charges against coaches and up and down the U.S. soccer pyramid, both at U.S. soccer and then also at the club level. And the narrative is that she has kind of been pushed out. Now, I don't
mm,
know why that would necessarily be, other than, I mean, it would have to be we don't want her because she's done this. But again, it's not like Megan Rapinoe hasn't been vocal about criticizing the federation, like, so it just
right.
brings up more questions of why Pino but not Press.
Yeah. And honestly, one thing that I'm thinking maybe they're looking at her all-time appearances. What is she? 7 away from 200, something like that. She's really close.
Yeah,
Maybe they're trying to get her to 200. I don't know. There's it's one of those situations where, parallels with the men's national team, Berhalter and John Brooks. There's something there, but no one knows, and it's
yeah,
all just speculation. And it's kind of like that with right now with Filipino. It's
yeah.
did she need to be here for this?
I
No.
don't really think she
Would
needed to.
we have rather seen Jalen Howell get some more opportunities? Or yeah, probably, but we didn't. Why? So I don't know. It's frustrating because again, why do you need leadership and experience for two friendlies against Colombia?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah,
And so even if she was the sole person, right? Why do you need that? But like you just talked about, she's not even the sole person to provide the leadership
right.
experience. it's not like we're talking about the U.S. men's national team where 90% of the roster is less
Right.
than 24, 25 years old.
Yeah. Only one
The
guy will be
U.S.
going to the
women's
World
national
Cup
team,
who has been to a World Cup before. These
right?
women, like,
The women's national team is like you look up and down the lineup: World Cup winner, World Cup winner,
yeah,
World Cup winner, World Cup winner.
gold medalist,
There,
World Cup winner, all
you
these
don't
things.
need the leadership and experience. So I'm with you. It's one of those head scratchers. It's a little bit
Yeah.
frustrating, but what are you going to do? That's why I feel like there's got to be some sort of outside pressure
It's kind of where I am too, where
to
it's
bring
like
her in.
I think it's weird to just like, and don't get me wrong, I think that the legitimate conspiracy about why Kristen Press isn't favored is
Mhm.
valid in terms of why people feel that way, but it doesn't hold water against Rapinoe, who has also been very vocally critical of the federation, who has brought a lot of bad press. I don't think it's necessarily bad press, but a lot of bad press toward the federation with some of the ways that she
Right.
has demonstrated her dissatisfaction with social justice issues. And it's weird that it was. Now, granted, this almost feels like a moot point because Kristen Press gets injured, but that does call into question a little bit of Vlatko's decision-making ability as we look at how he's going to build a roster for 2023. A World Cup against, and we keep, I think, feel like I say this every single World Cup, but a World Cup against teams that are increasingly better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
um,
absolutely.
it's just one of those things. I mean, I don't think that look, Canada, I'm very glad you finally got your gold medal, whatever. Congratulations. You're not the level that we are yet. I know
No.
Canada soccer had the best year that they could have ever imagined in 2021. Y'all got to follow it up to continue to, you can't just have once and pretend like you're up there.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but even then, we hopefully won't even have to worry about Canada until the final, right? We're in separate groups, so if we win our group, we won't worry about Canada until the final. All right, let's talk a little bit about these friendlies. We had two friendlies against Colombia. First one was in Denver, Colorado, beat them 3-0. We did have two missed penalties, one in each half. First by Lindsay Horan, second by Rose Lavelle. But Sophia Smith bagged 2 goals of her own, and Taylor Korniak got a goal on her debut. Overall, I think people were freaking out that it was 0-0 at halftime. Obviously, we missed a penalty in the first half. Lindsay Horan with not a great penalty take, but a save by the goalkeeper, and she saved she saved both penalties, and I'm telling you, saving a penalty in a game, so hard, so hard. So props to her, but I don't know. I feel like there's legitimate criticism of the way that we finish our attacking phase of play, but
Hmm.
we were in and out of that Colombia penalty area like the whole freaking match. It just happened to be that we couldn't score. It would be it, we took a bad touch or the goalkeeper made a good
Right.
save or a shot was off.
Right.
Were you
Hmm.
that concerned?
No, I mean, if it was like a string of games where there's difficulty in finishing, something like
Sure.
that, then maybe yes. But like, we all play, like we know how it is. Sometimes there's just games where you can't buy a goal. Like I
Yeah.
know in my over 30s league, co-ed league, there was a game a couple months ago. I swear we hit the post 6, 7 times. I mean, we won the game like 3-1, but it could have been like 10-1. We dominated the game.
Mhm.
We just couldn't get the ball in the daggum net. Like that's just the way it goes
Yeah.
sometimes. So again, that one off, it is what it is. Like you said, there's so many, variables that go into
Yeah.
why the ball didn't get there, whether it's the defensive work from the opposition, the goalkeeper, or just uh, lack of connection on the night, right? Look, the
Yeah.
cohesion and a pass off a few inches here, off a bad touch there, whatever. Like it happens. So I'm not concerned there. The second half adjustments made a difference, obviously. Uh,
I'll
Sophia
say one that
Smith.
I thought made a big difference. Ashley Sanchez coming in for Lindsay Horan.
I mean,
That
she's her creativity, the way she plays is just so much fun to watch. I love watching her play soccer. It's
Mhm.
almost not, don't get me wrong, people are going to freak out. Not the same level as Ronaldinho.
I know
Like
what you're saying.
Ronaldinho, he just when you watched him play, it was fun to watch him play. Like he was out there having fun. And to me, that's how she is. Like, do I think sometimes she tries a little bit too much? Yes, but that's what makes her fun to watch. That's what makes her so exciting. Because
She
sometimes when
chooses
she does pull
violence.
things off, yes. So you
She is
know,
here to embarrass you and the generations that come after you. That is
she's
her
not backing
goal.
down, and she's moving forward. She's going to be playing direct. She's trying to
Yeah.
embarrass you on the way to
Yeah.
score a goal, or have an assist. She came in, and she made a difference.
She
And
almost had
then,
a goal in this game that she beat like the entire defense, I think, and then tried to chip the goalkeeper, and it hit the frickin' hit the top netting, and it was like, oh my god, if that had gone in.
and
Like
that's the thing,
Puskas
like
world
her
word,
ability,
yeah, it would.
her ability to do those things is just it's it's fun, it's exciting, but it's vital to be able to, bring that
Yeah,
type of player off the bench. Are you kidding me? Like, hey, we're making a substitute in the 60th minute, and guess what? She's going to destroy your ankles. You've been running for an hour. Here you go. Um, so yeah, I mean, huge difference for the second half. Got the goals that you needed to get, several different ways. Um,
yes,
I think one you had uh, a through ball, Sophia Smith running on.
yep,
I think one she created her own, and then a header with 6'1" giant there. I mean,
yeah,
it's incredible how much just like 6'1", you think, "Oh, that's not that big," but when you're looking at all the other players are 5'4", 5'5", 5'6", 5'7", like
she's big. She's the
she's
tallest
towering
ever field player for the United States.
for the United States, yeah,
Yeah,
and which I think, uh, Sam is what, 6 foot? Sam Ewers is
yes,
6 foot?
she's like 5'11",
Yeah,
6 foot.
and
Yeah, she's tall,
yeah, something
but
like
she's not.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, that one extra inch, it just looks like she's, who's the girl from France? She's like 6'2".
Oh, Wendy Renard.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wendy
yeah.
Renard. Yeah,
That, you look at her and you think, she is just so much taller than every single person, um, and it does that 1, 2 inches, 3 inches that she's got on some of these other defenders makes a huge difference, and she's not only is she tall, but she's good in the
yeah,
air. I know I've seen players that are tall, or I've played with players that are tall
yep,
and are terrible with their head. It's like,
yeah,
why are you it's just a waste.
yeah,
It's a waste.
yeah.
Why are
Because the
you so
goal she
freaking tall?
scored was not like it was just a a comb over flick on, but it was
Right.
still
It was a flick
like
on to get there,
yeah,
but that's the thing, like, people don't realize how much skill that takes. Because
absolutely,
if you get too much of your head on there, it's almost like a defensive clearance at that
yeah,
point. To be able to time and use that's my point. Like,
yeah,
she is so much bigger and taller, but she's good in the air. Like, she actually knows what she's doing. So that was kind of cool to see. And then the fact that it was her debut was just, that's
yeah.
even cooler. But yeah, you scored in like three different types of phases. Um, so I think that kind of it was a really long-winded answer, sorry. I think that it kind of erases some of the concerns from the first half.
Yeah, again, I think that if it were we weren't creating chances or we weren't getting into attacking phases of play, that would be the problem. Because we saw that in the Olympics last summer. It wasn't that we weren't scoring; it was we were
Right.
struggling to build possession. We didn't have that problem. Now, granted, Colombia is not a top level team, but they're ranked like 24th in the world. They're not a
Right.
bad team,
They're
and
not a pushover.
individually they're very talented. So it's not
Yeah.
like it's not like the Uzbekistan friendlies where this team is just not very good. This team is pretty
Exactly.
darn good. They're very similar to the way that I think Mexico wants to play. Mexico probably a better team and better individuals, but they're pretty similar to that. So a 3-0 win, even though you didn't have the best first half, is fine in my opinion.
100%.
Moving on, they had a 2-0 win in Sandy, Utah. Um, Again, I think there is some slight concern. This game, I will say Colombia had a little bit better of the play. Not better all the
Mhm.
time, but they had better moments in this game. Um, Part of that is just, again, Colombia is like pretty darn good.
Yeah.
They're a solid team. But you did win 2-0. You got an own goal in the first half, but Sophia Huerta, it, look, it was a very good cross that the defender headed into the goal. It was a great finish from the defender, but that's what happens when you create this many opportunities. You're going to force mistakes like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think the cross was. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I think it was Alex was there. Like, if the
Yeah, yeah,
defender hadn't, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been a good opportunity in the first place.
yeah,
So yeah, like you said, sometimes just creating those dangerous moments, they're going to lead to good things.
yep.
So I'm with you because both of the goals were, they weren't goals where like, yeah, you just broke them down and it was like those beautiful, X's and O's Man City type goals. It was a bit lucky on both of
Yeah.
them, but you know, to that point, it's like you're not. It's not like we're watching 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row where it's difficult to watch like the Olympics were.
Yeah.
The Olympics, it was hard to watch. It was like,
The Olympics were bad
who are these
performances.
people?
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yep.
It was, and the fact that you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do so.
Right.
There's ruining your day because of how bad it was. But
Yeah.
those types of performances strung together, especially in meaningful matches, those types of things are concerning.
Right.
What we saw here with mixing in different players, working on different tactics, tuning up, tinkering here, tinkering there. I don't think there's a ton of concern that needs to be had.
I don't either.
But yeah, we got it done.
Both right backs got a goal this game. That's kind of the story. Is Sofia Huerta forcing an own goal and Kelly O'Hara with a fantastic volley gets
beautiful,
the second
beautiful
goal.
volley.
And again, that was it. I think this is the best way I've heard it described is sometimes we do settle for crosses that we don't need to settle for. It's okay. I've got an opportunity.
Yes.
Let's cross it in instead of trying to beat a defender or find a pass instead of a cross.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, putting the ball into the box against a team that, though they're very individually talented, is still not as good as you.
Right.
It can a lot of times work to your favor. Now, I would like for them to sharpen up their attacking ideas. And by that, I mean, instead of just crossing the ball in, right. Jedi Robinson does this all the time. It's like he sometimes just hits a cross and said, well, hey, it's in the box. Are we picking out a player? And if someone's there, can we either try to beat the defender or can we find a pass? So those are valid criticisms of this attack right now, but it's not the most effective, but it's certainly not an ineffective way to attack a team.
No, especially, I mean, you look at the goal Atlanta United scored last night, right? For those that don't know, Caleb Wiley gets down the left, crosses it in, headed back towards the center. I think it was Cisneros gets a shot, or no, Heineman gets a shot, bounces off, and then Joseph pokes it in. Right, it's a dangerous moment that was created off of a cross.
Right.
So yeah, getting that ball into the middle, getting that ball into the box, into those dangerous areas, it does create opportunities where you can capitalize.
Yeah.
But is it, like you said, is it the most effective way to play every time? No, it's not.
No.
So yeah, it would be nice to see some more creative ideas versus just that like old school beat your defender down the wing and cross it in, right? Like that is what you do in middle school, right?
Right.
That's what, like, I played with a guy one time, like literally it's like the only thing you knew how to do. Beat his defender down the line, get to the corner, and then cross it in. It's like, dude, there's no one in the freaking box. What are you doing? Now, with the women's national team, it's obviously not that bad to that extent.
No,
but yeah, I'm with you. Like, show me something, especially in these types of friendlies. Let's see something different that we're working on, because now's the time to practice that. Now's the time to instill that in your players, because if it doesn't work, then you go back to the drawing board. But yeah, the fact that we're doing that in a friendly is like, it kind of cements the idea of like, well, this is what we do.
And still scoring goals. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, we
Yeah.
won 3-0 and 2-0. And you go into the Concacaf W Championship with some momentum after beating, like I said, a pretty solid Colombia team. Looking at the tournament, you've got the group stage, which is really important for World Cup qualifying. Then you've got the knockout stage, which is really important for Olympic qualifying. Again, this does serve as the 2023 World Cup qualification and 2024 Olympics qualification. We are in the group with Haiti, Jamaica, and Mexico. The top 2 teams from each group, you're qualified for the 2023 World Cup. Congrats. The third place teams, the 2 third place teams, will play in a 10-team interconfederational playoff, which I'm not getting into those details right now. But if you're the U.S., you got to like your chances to directly qualify for the World Cup. You've got Haiti, Jamaica, Mexico. Mexico, obviously, the strongest team in this group, or the strongest opponent in this group for the U.S. But Jamaica is not a slouch. They were in the 2019 World Cup, so they're hoping to kind of progress off that. Mexico did miss last World Cup, but they have revitalized their program. And then you've got Haiti to start off with. Okay, so let's talk about the group stage. What's the path, do you think? I mean, what do you see this for the U.S. women to try to qualify top of the group so that not only do you get that World Cup qualification, but you make Olympic qualification a bit easier?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried.
Games, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not worried. We, like we've talked about this entire podcast, we're the best team in the world right now. Until the World Cup happens and we lose, if that happens, we're still the best team. Someone's got to,
right?
Someone's got to dethrone. You know what I mean? Someone's got to dethrone us, and until that happens, we're still the best team. So
we still medaled in Tokyo. Like that's the thing that I keep going back to is like we played really poorly and still got bronze.
We played. It was some of the worst I've ever seen from the United States women's national team. Like it was awful. And yes, 100%. And still we medaled. So that's my thing. Like even if we struggle bus it through this first stage, I'm still not super worried because I think we're at the point where struggling is still somewhat kind of dominating the game. It's almost like the first half of the first game against Colombia, right? That was a struggle. We sort of kind of dominated that first half. We just didn't score, and that's the struggle, quote unquote, right? So I feel like that's what it's gonna kind of be like. Well, we're gonna dictate most of these games. Can we finish? That is the biggest question, right? So as long as we keep having those opportunities and putting that ball in the box, getting those dangerous moments, I think we get the job done. So again, like I said, I'm not worried, but how dominant will it be? That's kind of the thing we're looking at.
I'm not worried, but I am a little concerned about playing Mexico in that final group match where things may be at stake in Mexico. Obviously, this tournament is being hosted in Monterrey. They're playing at Estadio BBVA, and which is where Monterrey plays. And then they're playing at Estadio Universitario, which is where Tigres plays. So these are Estadio BBVA, gorgeous. Jealous that the women get to play there because that stadium is beautiful. But yeah, I mean, like I would hopefully expect a big crowd for the U.S.-Mexico match in Monterrey. Like that gives me a little bit of concern. At least I'm genuinely hoping there's a lot of fans in the stands for that match because it's a big match for Mexico.
Sure.
But even then, the concern is minuscule because hopefully by then we've beaten Canada or beaten Haiti and beaten Jamaica, and we're sitting at 6 points. And really, I mean, yes, we're probably playing for top spot, and we need to make sure we get top spots. So we don't play Canada in the first knockout round, but I don't know. Not that much concern.
Yeah.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 3, you know?
Right. Exactly. Anything can happen, right? That's why you don't play the game on paper.
Sure.
That said, I'm not like shaking in my boots.
Right.
What are we going to do? No, like I have full confidence that the ladies are going to get it done. I mean, like we've said, the talent is The talent's stupid. The question is, can that talent come together and mesh well
Right.
enough to have the chemistry to go out, connect passes, and get the job done? That's the only thing, and
So
that's on
I think,
Vlatko.
yeah, like I mean, I think that's the thing is, I'm not concerned about World Cup qualification. Again, being top two in your group, we should absolutely achieve that. If we don't, then
Right,
like there are
right, right,
what
right.
like something went
Blow it
really
up.
wrong. Yeah, something went
Yeah,
really wrong, and I just don't. I
yeah.
don't. I cannot foresee that happening. Literally,
No, I
um,
don't see it.
like cannot. What does give me a little concern is so you make it out of that group stage, you've qualified for the World Cup, but Olympic qualification is a little bit trickier because the only team who directly qualifies for the Olympics in this tournament is the team who wins it. So the team who wins automatic. You have to then the second and third place teams play in a playoff that'll happen in September for some reason. Concacaf is doing this. So, you don't want to be third or second. You would like to win it. You certainly need to win that semifinal game to give yourself the best chance to qualify directly. So if you don't finish first in the group, if for some reason there's a slip up and somehow Mexico is the team that ends up winning the group, you're more than likely playing Canada in a semifinal that you have to win to give yourself an assurance that you're going to the Olympics. That could get a little sticky. But even then,
Right,
you're
right,
talking about if you win the third place match against the team that finishes that doesn't win that other semifinal. Hopefully you can do that. I mean, it just feels like it's a very forgiving tournament for both Canada and the United States. Where
right.
yeah, it's a little tricky if you don't win the final, you're not going to the Olympics. But I find it very hard to be super concerned.
It's it sounds weird to say this, but it's almost like to miss out on all of it. To me, this is how I'm going to put it, right? Because it's hard to explain. To miss out on uh, World Cup qualifying and the Olympics, to me, would require an absolute, just catastrophic downfall from the program.
Which I
Like,
don't see happening between
I don't,
now
no,
and like
exactly.
July
That's what I'm saying.
14th or whatever.
Could there be a slip up in one match? Sure, maybe, but then you have another opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I don't see two back-to-back just absolute failures
Right.
from this group of girls. I don't see that
I don't
happening.
either. Um, Real quick, the games are July 4th against Haiti, July 7th against Jamaica, and July 11th against Mexico. That is a 10 o'clock kick. That is absolutely prime time for the Mexico team. Again, I hope that stadium is packed because that would be really cool to see. But yeah, these games matter. Like, I'm glad we're playing games that matter. And I think Vlatko does have something to prove looking back on what happened last summer at the Olympics,
Right,
right? I think there is
right.
a little bit of something to prove, but I would love to win this to kind of, again, regain dominance over the region. And I don't see why there's any reason we wouldn't win it. But even if we don't win it,
Yeah,
we can still qualify for the World Cup and qualify for the Olympics just fine.
right. And then regain it then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about, who's your first choice starting 11? Who would you put out there if you, and let's
Oh,
you're playing Mexico. No one's been hurt. You're playing Mexico on the 11th, and you need a result to
mhm.
make sure you win the group. What's your 11?
Um, let's say it's hard because it's like, what am I going to do? What's Blanco going to do? And then the combination of both of those.
Yeah. What do you want to
Like I
do?
said,
What's your first choice
I
11?
like Murphy.
Okay.
I like Ace Murphy. Okay, so that's keeper. Then I'm probably gonna go. Let's go Fox at left back. O'Hara right back. I like just for that veteran experience. Let's go Becky
Yeah.
right center back.
I think
Has
Becky
she done that?
can play right. Yeah, I think Becky played the right or the left side in that friendly against Colombia. So
That's right. Becky
yeah,
can play
so I
both.
think you
So
can
yeah.
do
So then
that.
we'll
Yeah,
go Alana Cook right center
yeah,
back and Becky left center back. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's fine. Okay. Sullivan's at the 6. And then here's the. Okay, scratch it, scratch it, scratch it. I'm going to take Sullivan
Oh,
off the 6. I'm going to put Haran
oh,
at the 6
okay,
just to get her on the field. Okay, just to get her on the field because I
okay.
love me some Lindsay Haran. And then I'm going to have Rose and Ashley as my
Yeah,
two
okay.
eights. Okay. I just think I like Andy Sullivan, but to be able to get those 3 center
Yeah,
midfielders on the field at the same time, I think that's the best way to do it. So that's what we're going to do there. And then
I
I'll
get that.
have Sophia Smith and Mal Pugh as my wingers and Alex Morgan as my number 9. I think that's a
Okay.
pretty solid lineup right there. But I know like we
Yeah,
tweaked it and tinkered a little bit with Haran, but I just if I can get those 3 on the field at the same time, I would really like that.
I think Haran playing as a 6, we will see that in this tournament multiple
I
times.
think so.
I think it will happen more than once. I think it might happen once in the group stage, once in the knockout stage. Only because, and I mean this sincerely, it's not as bad as the U20 championship, but you play every 3 days. So there's going to need to be some squad rotation. Luckily, the
Yeah.
U.S. doesn't really have a problem with depth, so you can turn over a squad pretty
Right.
easily.
Right.
I'm going to start Nair in goal. I'm going to start
Okay.
on the right side. It'll be Kelly O'Hara, then Alana Cook, Becky Sauerbrunn, Emily Fox at left. My midfield will be Sullivan, Haran, Lavelle. Now I'm leaving
Okay.
Ashley Sanchez off because
Okay.
I know of the influence she can have in a game when coming off the bench. I'm not saying that I want her on the bench. I'm just saying that
No, I'm fine with it. I like that.
get through a first half and see what you need, right? Because it could be, you need a little bit more defensive presence. You put Christy Mewis in. Oh no, we need to go for it. You put Sanchez in. That's kind of where
Yeah. No, I'm good with that.
And then my front 3, it's Pugh, Morgan, Smith. Like those are those 3. But yeah, I mean, I think that you and I both kind of settle on like your midfield is more about how do I get the best attacking talent on there, which is valid. I'm being a little bit more conservative, but I think I don't see where you would have a player starting that you would go, wow, that's a bad one, except for Megan Rapinoe starting. But even then, if Megan Rapinoe starts against like Haiti or Jamaica, I'm not going, oh boy, this is going to be a problem. Like
sure. Yeah, it's not like she's out there with a walker. You know what I mean? Like
not yet.
she's not yet. She's still she can still be effective.
Yeah.
So, but I think you just put it perfectly. I don't think there is a scenario where you put a player into the lineup where you look at it and you have concern.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that situation exists with this U.S. Women's national team.
All right, so like I said, that's the Concacaf W Championship. We got 3 group matches and then 2 knockout matches, and they all matter to some extent. Caleb, thanks for being on this episode with me. And where can we follow you?
J. Caleb Cook 1 and USWNT Corner on Twitter.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Again, if you want to support the podcast, go to buymeacoffee.com/soccerforuspod. I'm Bart. I'm out.